Robert Hulse and David Cayton have been investigating crop circles since the mid-1990s and are well known for their activities in gathering and analysing physical and photographic evidence. I started by asking them how far back crop circles go.
Oh well, I mean, they've been around for hundreds of years. Certainly going back to the 17th century, the mowing devil woodcut is an example of that. But I feel that the early fairy rings, which were flattened areas of grass or crop, could well have been early examples of the crop circles that we see today.
Okay, and these older circles that are basically recorded in history books, shall we say, what kind of patterns are we talking about?
Well, more likely simple circles, I would say.
Yeah.
Becoming a bit more up to date in the 1920s and the 1930s, and even during the war, 1940s, people in the farming industry in those days remember when they were kids, they'd play in them, they'd find them on a regular basis.
What countries are they appearing in now, and are there any specific areas in this country and other countries that they appear to occur in?
Well, they're all over the world, aren't they?
Yeah.
But you know, latterly you've heard from in Scandinavia, Italy, Germany, France,
Canada,
yes, America,
quite a few in Canada.
Canada, probably good ones there.
Yeah.
And in this country.
And in this country, it appears to be focused on one particular county. Am I right in thinking that?
Yes. Wiltshire and then Hampshire second, I think, in terms of numbers.
But Wiltshire mainly.
Yeah.
And I think it could have something to do with the ley line system, which seems to be concentrated very much in the Wiltshire area, with Stonehenge and particularly Avebury and the area around the Vale of Pewsey.
The long barrows, the stone circles, as Robert says, Avebury, and that men have erected Silbury Hill, of course, is still a mystery why Silbury Hill was there, is a link with our past, and maybe that's what they're trying to say. We are linked to your past.
The people who built Avebury, for instance, built it there because they were well aware of the energy, and I'm quite sure they used that energy for various purposes, possibly healing.
And am I right in thinking that the complexity has increased over the last kind of 10 or 15 years?
Yeah, late 80s, early 90s, they changed to what they call pictograms, and you started getting different shapes, and a number of circles linked, or oval shapes.
And is that predominantly in the UK then, or has the complexity... Because I did see one in Holland that was a very complex shape.
But the more complex shapes started in the UK and then appeared in Holland later, much later.
And my understanding is that you believe that some crop circles are man-made, whereas others are not man-made. Now, can you explain to me how you distinguish between the two?
Well, just going back a place, we've learnt along the way. I mean, we made mistakes when we first started, and we would give a crop circle the thumbs up as being the real McCoy. When looking back, we realise they weren't.
And when you say real McCoy, you mean that it hasn't been constructed by man? Man.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Via a mechanical means. Okay. Yeah. Carry on. So you've made a mistake, and why?
Well, because we were not recognising all the signs, and we were new to the business. It's a learning curve, and everyone wants to believe, including us, that the formation we've gone into, which reminded me a bit of a trek on foot to get to them. You want it to be the bee's knees. Yeah, you don't want to be disappointed. You know?
We didn't want to be critical. We wanted to find the real thing.
Right. Okay. And when you actually got down and started examining these things in detail, tell me what you started to find.
Well, first of all, as you go into the formation, you can immediately get an overall impression by the general lay. You know, either it's very, very flat or it looks a mess.
I mean, the genuine crop circle is almost perfect. The lay flows like water flowing down a stream bed, you know. The man-made ones, because they are mechanically stomped for the most part.
In a half sort of pace, you get sort of bunching or layering of the crop, the seed heads. This is the implement, which was confiscated from Hulse.
And these are done using a plank of wood attached to some rope, which somebody will basically stomp out.
Stomping board, yeah.
That's right. But the genuine ones are so fluid. There are no mistakes. There are no acute changes of direction.
And what about any other clues within the crop itself of boarding?
Yes, well, the board impacts the stems and damages the stems, so that's something you have to really get down hands and knees job to look closely, and they're not easy to see unless you know what you're looking for.
We've just come in the formation, and disappointing immediately to find physical evidence of mechanical damage, and the lay is very unimpressive, very flat, and there's board marks all over the place, which is a terrible disappointment in view of our high hopes of moments ago. And down here, just as an area in one of the spiral paths near the centre, and you can see board mark, board mark, board mark, there and there and there.
You can miss them, as we have done in the past, I guess.
Yes.
So the leading edge of the board, as it strikes the stem, is causing an injury to the stems and causes lines of creases. So if it's like a 3-foot board, you'll find rows of stems more or less lined up. And when you turn the stem over, that doesn't occur on the opposite side.
Well, if we walk into this small circle and come over here, I have a feeling that I found the board marks fairly easily this time. Oops, a daisy. And here we are. If we come down here, we can see that we have a board mark. And if we come over here, here we have another. So we have two of them fairly close together, which is how they should be. A row of what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I think there's a typical crease there, and I'm bending it slightly, and then you come back towards the camera a little bit, and now we've peeled off the outer sheathing of and you can feel that with your fingernail. And then if you come back even further to where the tip of the dowsing rod's pointing, there's another one. It's again not too deep. You also can see a bend it there. You can see how the crease bends back, like you do with your finger.
Yep.
So on the other side it will be okay. You turn it, squish it round, and there's no mark on that side, because as you turn it back, the edge of the board, the leading edge of the board, the plank has hit the crop there as it's gone down.
That's right. We have 3 on this stem here, but I've come across here a little bit further. We just rub the bloom off a little bit. I mean, just look at those. We've 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
When the crop is green, when the board impacts the crop, the mark isn't immediately apparent. It takes about 12 hours or so for the chemical reaction in the plant to create a white line on the stem.
So we thought we ought to prove this ourselves. Having knocked it down, we'd go in to check to see how long and see if any of these marks appeared, which they did. It took about nearly 20 hours, I think.
Possibly, but it depends on the maturity of the crop. Yeah. If it's early in the season and there's plenty of sap going up through the green stems, then they're as easy as pie to spot. Okay. But later in the season, as the moisture comes out of the stems and they start to go that straw colour, then they're very difficult, and you simply have to get down on your hands and knees and check.
Okay, and how many years have you gone back actually recording these board marks then?
Since 2000, 2001.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So of the formations that you've actually examined, down on your hands and knees, shall we say, how many do you find are man-made and how many are in the unexplained category then?
Well, currently, in the last year or two, I would think
I haven't found
less than 5%. I would think are genuine in our opinion, which I know is
much less.
Much less than 5%.
In fact,
not news that people would want to hear. But
in my opinion, I've not personally seen a genuine one since May 2005, which was an oilseed rape formation at Golden Ball Hill in May 2005. Fortunately, our friend Bill Betts took some wonderful photographs of that formation on the morning that it was discovered, and it's absolutely wonderful. The pristine, the flower heads, which are one of the first things to get damaged when you try to stomp oilseed rape, are perfect. They're undamaged. They're evenly spread throughout the laid crop, just as they are in the standing crop. That simply is impossible to recreate with a stomping board. So therefore, I am certain that small formation was genuine.
Okay, right. What about the Ogbourne St George formation? Because that's another one that you believe that is a non-man-made.
Absolutely, certainly genuine formation. I mean, the main thing about that was the way the crop had been laid. It wasn't flat to the ground. It was laid like the grooves of a record, wasn't it, Dave? So the top bit of lay was probably only a few inches below the general level of the crop in the field.
To illustrate what Robert means by the grooves of a record, we can zoom into the circle in question. The arrow here shows where the photograph to the right was taken. From ground level we can see the disturbance has occurred just a few inches from the top of the crop, but this has a significant visual effect when viewed from above. Ask yourself, what could create this kind of effect? Certainly not a plank of wood.
Then the next band, slightly higher, then lower again, then higher, then lower, then higher, and so it goes on right across this circle. The effect is so delicate.
Are there other pieces of evidence that might show what you refer to as a genuine crop circle?
Well, we have what are called blown nodes. Now, what happens, we believe, is that in the genuine formations, heat from some energy is brought to bear on the crop, which heats the moisture in the stems. Now, as there's more moisture in the nodal joint of the stem, it acts like a pressure cooker, and eventually it will turn to steam inside the node, and it has to go somewhere, so it will explode a hole through the side of the nodal joint.
I mean, the node provides the structural strength to hold the stem vertical, to take the weight of the developing seed head to stop it toppling over. So that's the strongest part of the stem is the nose. That's why they space 5 or 6 up from the root. So that's softened to partly bend it at the node and produce the blown node as well because of the pressure built in, a bit like a pressure cooker.
Quite simply, if you went to bend a stem of wheat, it would bend on the stem between the nodes.
Yes, a straight portion.
It certainly wouldn't bend at the node.
I took some specimens to a botanist at Manchester University, a fellow called Dr. Roland Enos, and he had a programme going, funded by industry, the farming industry, or the Ministry of Ag, as it was, to test. And they were looking at lodging, which is a term used when the weather knocks crop down, which caused a lot of wastage to the farmer. And he couldn't understand how on earth they could be bent at the node other than phototropism, as Robert just mentioned, as a natural force going to the light, horizontal and down.
So you think it's two different effects. One is that something is heating the water up inside the node
to soften the plant, yes.
And then another effect, which is mechanical, or results in a mechanical effect of forcing the crop down in a particular direction.
Exactly.